7 names, no games as I run it down the line. We got Kenny Ken, put 100 on the tees with the streak for the cash. ESPN, Seth Curry with the shot. The prodigy. In reality, he's more like Seth, but he's all we got. Up next is Gentleman Jack, better known as Junior Blue. We told him not to do it anyway, but he did what he do. To his right is Devin, that dude, L-Dad or Dirt Ass Dan. Just don't ask him a question, cause then he'll answer your question with another question, and then he'll add another question on top of that question. Damn. And I'm Red O, the Buck Wild Problem Child.
Flow Butter, aka John Cutter.
It's the league ambassadors, and we playing to win. At the 2-yard line, and make no mistake, we running it in. Pete Carroll, we see you.
Thank you for visiting 32 Kings Road, hosted by the league ambassadors. I'm Ambassador Dad, not Kenny Ken. And it is a pleasure to be here today with some of my brothers. All of us cannot be here. This is episode 51 of our podcast, 32 Kings Road. As a reminder, please check us out across all social media platforms on our handle at The League AM, our website, theleagueam.com, where you can find all of our content, even our off-season show, Confirmation Bias. You can check out our blog spot, Diplomatic Immunity, where you, the fan, can drop your bars and spit your hot fire as it pertains to the world of sports. Please download 32 Kings Road and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is under the banner League Ambassadors. Today, again, is our episode 51, and we will continue our NFL International Series preview by discussing some history on the defending champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. We will look at hot topics across the league, as well as game previews for Week 5, and some questionable coaching decisions made in a game that was decided by that decision. But first, Junior Blue, what are you sipping on, sir?
I'm sipping on some of this Tito's vodka. For the first time this year, all of our teams won.
Yeah.
Mainly because the Raiders pulled out their first victory. Couple adjustments were made in the second half offensively.
First time for everything.
I just need one defensive adjustment to be made. Can we put Reggie Nelson out to pasture? And I'll be done.
Hey, come to Jesus.
Man.
Chef Curry, what you sipping on, man?
Well, October 2nd is the 3-year anniversary of when I almost died from drinking alcohol. So tonight, I'm drinking that good old-fashioned H2O.
You just had a red cup, though.
It's full of water.
He tried to sneak it past us.
Right.
No, of all days, not today. But I'm sipping on the fact that it's finally October. You know, Libra season is finally here, and it's all about balance, whether in your personal life or in business, or balancing the water you drink with the alcohol you drink. And even in football, where you have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense,
talk about it,
leads to a pretty good first month of the season for these Baltimore Ravens.
I hate you, Kev. Red O, what you sipping on, sir?
I'm sipping on Junior Blue's favorite, Gentleman Jack. And couple things. One, Kenny Ken, don't worry. We collecting that bail money. We going to get you out real soon. Have you back here next week.
In time for London.
In time for London. And 2, after every victory, baby, you going to hear it a lot.
We might.
One more time. Best song ever. All right, I'm done.
Hey guys, for those of you who weren't at my house on Sunday, Omar was in rare form. We've never seen him so happy this late into the season, and even though it's only 4 weeks.
And that's real shit.
Well, I'm also preparing myself for London and saving my liver, because I swear ever since the man cave has been birthed, it has been a struggle. So I am drinking water. But what I'm sipping on is the fact that we are at the quarter mark of the NFL season, 4 games in. So, of course, media outlets are jumping the gun on things from Super Bowl predictions to awards. So I saw an article on one of the NFL websites that said, here's a list of the first quarter non-quarterback MVPs. So for those of you who don't know, MVP stands for most valuable player. It doesn't mean the best quarterback on the best team or just the best quarterback. But since 2000, this millennium, all but 4 MVPs have been quarterbacks. And in 2003, 2 quarterbacks won the MVP. Since 1957, there have only been 3 non-quarterback or running back players to win the award. 2 from defense, and 1 was a kicker. Lawrence Taylor in 1986 was the last defensive player to win the league MVP. So I have 2 questions that I want to jumpstart this conversation with the brothers. 1, why does it have to be a quarterback? And then 2, is Khalil Mack the league MVP? I'll start with you, Kev.
Bastard.
For good reason, because we know exactly where that conversation's going. I think in recent history, it's been a quarterback because of the responsibility that the league has put on that position, and then how the game has changed to benefit the quarterback. That if somebody balls out, then absolutely they should get the award. But if it's not going to be a quarterback, I think this is cut, dry, and easy. That no, it's not Khalil Mack. It's Le'Veon Bell. his absence led from a Super Bowl contender being the worst team in that division. And I feel great about that as a fan. But as a fan of the sport overall, I think he is truly setting the precedent for how big-name players are going to address free agency down the line. Because, we'll get to those who didn't benefit from taking Le'Veon's his course of action. But you can see when he's not on the field, Pittsburgh's offense and their defense are completely different.
See, I understand what you're saying. I just think the pundits were wrong about Pittsburgh, and they weren't a Super Bowl contender, regardless of whether he's there or not. Don't get me wrong. They're better if he's there.
I agree with you.
I just don't think they're as good as people think they were. That's all I'm saying.
That's funny because you and I had a whole spout about how good the Steelers were.
I think Todd Haley should win Coach of the Year. That's right? Where that should go because their offense is horrible without him. Don't look nothing like it did last year. Period.
But wait a second, they found his replacement, didn't they?
No, they didn't. Not yet.
He's still floundering around.
See, I truly think the fact that he came out and said something about he's coming back in a couple weeks means that somebody from that organization reached out to him and was like, "Look, man, we're gonna get you this money."
He can't come back because of that. I mean, I don't know why he would come back, especially after Earl Thomas.
So you don't think that there was some sort of handshake agreement or nod like, listen, buddy.
Because he said he's coming back.
If you saw the game Sunday, we didn't look very good at all.
And then all of a sudden,
we are going to pay you. We need you back, sir.
If Le'Veon believes that, he's dumb as fuck.
I agree. So what?
I mean, we're going off the subject of MVPs, but I don't think he could do that. I mean, he's been franchise tagged the last 2 years?
This would be the second year.
Yeah, this will be the second year.
But he hasn't shown up yet, so they actually haven't done it.
But I don't think everything he's gone through. You see what happened to Earl Thomas, and if something happens to him, are they still going to pay him?
Right.
The funny thing is, it's almost like watching, if there's nothing else, like no under the table stuff, it almost seems like watching Earl Thomas almost made him want to go back.
It validated his story, though. It validated everything.
Yeah, but you're talking about a competitor who loves to be on the field.
But why would his injury, he's fighting for the same thing you're fighting for, and he just got fucked out of millions.
I'm not saying it was logical.
Well, I mean that's debatable, and we won't know because we don't know if he actually will show up on week 7.
We do know who the MVP candidate who's not a quarterback is.
Well, that I was going to come to you, Omar.
Checking.
So is Khalil Mack the league MVP?
I mean, he's definitely the Raiders MVP.
I don't know how we are with MVP. Hey, hold on. Will we be 3-1 without him?
No.
I mean, with him?
I know what you meant.
No.
Really? Why not?
It may you would have.
We would lost to the Rams.
I think it would be 2-2 then.
Okay.
You know, he's good
So
for
it's
one
one game.
He's working.
But no, to me, he's definitely been the MVP. I mean, unless you want to give it to Patrick Mahomes. But, I mean, the way he's dominated, the way he transformed that defense, which was good last year. That is a thing. The Bears' defense was good. But he added that special thing that turned up their whole defense to where they've been dominant. And even I have to say that.
The thing is, it's Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, exactly.
Esque, like, and that's what the reason why you are starting to hear his name as an MVP candidate, because you haven't seen this since that
32 years.
that I mean, don't get me wrong, defense was good, but what we're doing now is insane. Like what he's doing, he is earning every dollar of that contract that people thought we were crazy for giving him.
And my thing is, I'm sorry, Kev, I'll go right back to you, but the term MVP is the most valuable player, and you cannot say that there's anyone in the league right now more valuable to a team than Khalil Mack, because you guys, what were your record last year? 5-11?
Yes.
5-11. They're 60% of the way there already. Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, he's by far the most dominating player, the scariest player in football. And I think as many great pass rushers as there are in the league right now, he is, I mean, just eons above who's below. I mean, you look at Von Miller. As great as Von Miller is, we've seen the last 2 games he's played him basically get taken out of the game by scheme. With Khalil Mack, I don't know what you do. You double team him, you triple team him. He's just, like you said, that Lawrence Taylor effect where you just got to try to avoid him as much as you can and limit plays going to his side of the field, because he will single-handedly wreck a game. And I think the value we're putting to him, Devin, you talk about the actual name of the award, to me is similar to what Patrick Mahomes is doing. He's on a roster, on the side of the ball that's already talented. We had the pieces there in Chicago. Omar, you and I've talked about it before, how talented that defense is. You can say the same thing about Kansas City. That offense had talent. But then when you put somebody there that can enhance and elevate everybody around them to a point where Mahomes and Khalil Mack can both be in the playoffs this year, I think they're 1 and 2 at the moment.
Is there anyone else you guys think could be in that conversation aside from Mahomes?
Sean McVay.
I mean, Goff's putting up stupid numbers, but his cast around him, I think, will kind of quelch any of those thoughts.
I said what I
said. I said what I said. That's it. Mahomes right now is the front runner. Team that's undefeated.
I think Mahomes is the front runner only because he's not a first year player, but this is his first year starting.
5 starts.
Yes, and and then when you do legendary shit
on Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night. So, but there was. I think they're starting to get tape. So as the season progresses, we'll see. Denver
was actually the first team to have tape on him already. They played them week 17, so this is the first time he's had the second go around. So it's interesting how that response was.
If Denver had a serviceable quarterback, they might have won.
What you mean? He getting $18 million a year?
18 million.
$18 million a year. All right, so let's get into our history segment, which is Moments in Hand-Dag. Again, we will continue our international series preview by discussing the Philadelphia Eagles, who will be in the last set of London games versus London's very own Jacksonville Jaguars. That will be
soon, baby.
That will be in Week 8 at Wembley Stadium. A little bit of background on the Eagles: they were founded in 1933 as a replacement for the bankrupt Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. When a group led by Bert Bell secured the rights to an NFL franchise in Philly. The franchise has won 4 championships pre-Super Bowl era, and of course last year with a backup quarterback, they won Super Bowl 52. So just like in previous episodes with the Seahawks, Raiders, and the Chargers that we've already previewed, we will start with who we feel like is on the Eagles' Mount Rushmore. And most of the time when we do these sorts of segments, there's always a lot of overlap and some unanimous picks that we come across. So we're going to start with the unanimous ones. All of us, as we should have, had Mr. Reggie White. So I'll open up about Mr. White here. I've said it on multiple episodes of 32 Kings Road that I think, in no particular order, he's one of the 3 best defensive players of all time, arguably the greatest player on defense. He could be on the league's Mount Rushmore. So I think it would be Disgusting.
He was all right.
He was all right.
You know I got hate.
Yeah. But so you have to have that guy there, even though he didn't secure the bag for them. He went on to.
He's there just for 87 alone.
Yeah, I was trying to say it without saying it, but he went to the Packers and got his Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Whatever. But Kev, what else can you say about this football luminary?
I think something that I saw that always goes overlooked is that the first 2 years he played in the USFL before he joined the Eagles, and there he had 23.5 sacks, which don't count to his NFL total, which again I think is ridiculous. That Reggie White 2 more years in the NFL, what his numbers would look like. He had 21 sacks in 87, which was a 12-game season. Which I'll say that again because that doesn't make sense to a normal brain. He had 21 sacks in a 12-game season,
which is insane.
In the 121 games he played in Philly, he had 124 sacks, which is 15.5 sacks a year. I mean,
and book it.
He's just
for the bank. Every year.
And he's on Mount Rushmore for 2 separate franchises, which I think is crazy. But Reggie White, man.
Yeah, it wasn't hard to get to their Mount Rushmore, but all right, let's.
Wow. Les, you have anything else to add to?
I mean, he was the minister of defense. I mean, for a player to make the all-decade team in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
He won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, 87, and then 11 years later in 98, and in between in 91. I mean, longevity, played, 13 out of 15 seasons. He was an all-pro. I mean, he was the man. He is on the Mount Rushmore of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And he was when he retired, he was number 1 all time with the most sacks, 198. And Bruce Smith broke that with 200. But like Kev said, if you add his 23.5 sacks from the USFL as a professional football player, he is the all-time leading sack leader.
To me, it's always more impressive when a defensive player is as great as he is, because every team knows they have to scheme for you. And when there's nothing they can do about it, year after year after year after year, they just have to take it. That's to me, that's more impressive.
When I was growing up, looking at the sheer size of the guy, I had no idea that he was only a DN because of how big he looked. The way that he used to just manhandle and just throw tackles and guards around like a rag doll, and it would be double and triple teams, and it wouldn't even matter. So another player that we all kind of came to the conclusion should be on the Mount Rushmore is Chuck Bednarik. Les.
I really didn't have Chuck.
You did not.
But I know he was the last of the 60-minute men.
The last
one to play both sides of the ball. So, I mean, that's just to think about that. Think about a player doing that today. I mean, that's just, could you imagine that? Could you imagine someone playing 60 minutes, being a center, and then turning around and being a linebacker?
That's.
I mean, damn.
And he made it known when his career was over how much he just despised the current NFL and how players didn't play as hard as he did and as often as he did. Damn sure he didn't get paid what players are making now. That's why they called him Concrete Charlie, because he actually worked the concrete business in the off season. But for me, I mean, he embodied Philly. I mean, he was born in Bethlehem, then went to Lehigh, and then died in Richland, which is like, you can't get more Eastern Pennsylvania than that. So, I mean, Chuck was a staple for the franchise, man. And I think if you look at the fact that he played 2 of the most physical positions on the field, and linebacker and center,
at the same time,
at the same damn time, and missed only 3 games in a 14-year career, that's retarded.
And then he didn't even get into football until after he did 30 missions as a B-24 gunner in World War II. So it wasn't even like he was a football player. Let me go 30 missions. Yeah. So
football was easy.
And then he went from that to a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So I understand why he looks at all these players as punks.
Well, specifically, he called them pussyfoots.
Oh, I didn't want to say that.
Those are his words, not mine, Omar. But I thought it was interesting that that when he died, which was very recently, 2015, that the Eagles put out a statement saying that it was an undisclosed illness that he passed away from. And his daughter was like, bullshit. My dad had Alzheimer's, and he's been suffering from dementia for years from football-related injuries.
Because he didn't come off.
Because he didn't come off the fucking field. Which is hilarious that he was shit on Troy Brown and Deion Sanders saying, y'all not real two-way players. So that's super interesting.
I mean, they weren't.
Right, compared to him.
Yeah,
not compared to him. I mean, center you get hit every time. Linebacker get hit every time. And they were playing with leather chin straps back then, basically.
And I can see him playing without a helmet.
Yeah. Kev, I'll go to you. Our next person on the Mount Rushmore, the majority of us, except for me, had this guy who was kind of controversial, but beloved and not loved. Donovan McNabb. Why'd you have him on the Mount Rushmore?
The first Mach 5 is a black quarterback, so we're always going to show respect to those when we can. He was booed on draft night. Everybody remembers that. Philly didn't want his ass. And all he did was finish second MVP voting. I think the following season, of course, Marshall Faulk took that home. Led Philly to 7 10-win seasons. He stayed in the game after breaking his ankle, went 20 of 25, 255 yards, 4 touchdowns. First quarterback in league history to throw for over 30 touchdowns and fewer than 10 interceptions in a single season. In my opinion, my humble young opinion, he's the best quarterback in Eagles history.
Well, only 2 other quarterbacks, I believe, played as many years as he did for the franchise. Jaworski and Randall. Randall played 10. I think Jaws played 11. And neither one of them are within 6,000 yards of passing yards to him. You know, so like it's not like that argument is insane or even crazy to say that he is the best quarterback in Eagles history. So
I mean, he leads them in yards, TDs. He had the most QB wins as a starter by over 30 to the person in second place. And when they were booing him at draft night, just think about this. Number 1, Tim Couch. Then Donovan McNabb went. You know who number 3 was? Achilles Smith.
Oh my goodness!
And they were booing him.
But
Philadelphia got it right.
Didn't they want? They wanted Ricky
Meyer.
No. The running back.
Ricky Williams.
They wanted Ricky Williams, right?
Yeah, they got it right.
Yeah,
they got it right. So I mean,
it truly. Go ahead, Les.
No, you go. I just think that when you look at Donovan McNabb, yes, he had his ups and downs, throwing up in the Super Bowl, doing all this, but there was no other quarterback who could even compare to him in numbers, wins, or anything else, unless you put Nick Foles up there.
Here's my thing. Yes, Nick. Here's my thing. I think the problem with Donovan McNabb when it comes to Eagles is he's compared to his contemporaries. The best quarterback in the draft before him, Peyton Manning. The best quarterback in the draft after him is Mr. Tom Brady. And, you know, he's stuck in the middle of 2 of the greatest all time.
Who was the best quarterback in his draft? That's the problem.
That's
the thing. I mean, because you think about it, I mean, even if you go further, you had Cade McNown.
Oh.
I mean, they had Dante Culpepper.
Oh, I knows about Cade.
So, I mean,
my heart just dropped. I was like, don't say Cade. Don't say Cade. But I'm just saying,
that's what's frustrating, though, with Donovan is this. I just feel like of course, he didn't win the Super Bowl, that he's underappreciated. I mean, you look at, besides Philly's recent success, of course, they won 19 playoff games in franchise history. Donovan has 9 of them, which means in the 70-so years without Donovan McNabb, they won 10 playoff games as a franchise. With him, he got those 9, excluding, of course, their recent playoff success. And you compare him to Peyton, but he didn't always have the best weapons. He had what was the greatest receiver ever? Freddie Mitchell.
Freddie Mitchell.
That comes up later. And it's just, I don't think he necessarily had the best supporting cast. I think he made the most out of what he had, and compared to other years of success or lack thereof in Philadelphia, the fuck can they complain about?
Right.
Kev got mad. Damn, Kev.
Man, just come on, man. Black quarterback night.
All right. Hey, keep that same energy, B.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's coming.
But yeah, moving on to the most recent Hall of Fame inductee for this franchise, Mr. Brian Dawkins. So he just was inducted a few months back, 9-time Pro Bowler. He's one of only 9 Philadelphia Eagle jerseys to be retired, and one of only 4 of the modern day players to have their jersey retired and put in the Ring of Honor. And he was on first team All-Decade 2000 team, but he was only the 5th safety taken in that draft. The only other safety that's worth mentioning is Lawyer Malloy. So that says a lot about how people get shit wrong.
Man.
Scouting. We've called that out plenty of times.
Yeah. So anybody have anything else to add to Mr. Dawkins?
I mean, I think he kind of took over the Mr. Philadelphia. Because, I mean, he's the one that amped him up all last season. He's the one coming out of the tunnel, leading them out there. One of the dopest things is that he actually got a ring because he's part of the front office.
Right, he's an administrator.
They didn't put his name on there. They put Weapon X on there because that was his nickname as a safety.
That's dope.
Which makes me think of most of these players that we mentioned have pretty sick nicknames.
Yes.
You got Mach 5, you got Wolverine, Weapon X. Chuck Bednarik was what was it? Concrete. Minister of Defense.
That's some East Coast shit.
Yeah.
But what I will give Dawkins though, as a fellow Libra, his birthday is 7 days after mine, was how quick he adjusted and succeeded in NFL. He became the starting safety week 2, his rookie year. 7-time Pro Bowler, maybe one of the most complete safeties to play the game, as he could make a play in the box, at the line of scrimmage by blitzing. He had like 37 career sacks. He could cover the slot. He could cover tight end. He could cover deep down the field. He was a member of the 30-30 club, 30 picks, 30 forced fumbles. Started 182 of 183 games. And then what I thought was crazy was looking at before he got that contract in 99, he extended with Philly for, I think it was a 3-year, $1.27 million contract. Earl Thomas is wiping his ass.
All right, let's move along here. Two of the guys had Mr. Steve Van Buren. Let's talk about him.
I mean, he was really the Eagles' first star. I mean, he was their number 1 draft pick. He still holds their record for the most yards in one game. He ended his career as the leading rusher in the NFL, and he was the first Eagles Hall of Famer. He was their first star. I mean, you have to put him up there because, who knows if the team is still there if they don't get him.
Right.
And you brought up nicknames. He has 2. One was Wham Bam, and the other one was Moving Van. So, because of how his bruising style of running, he had he has not a good story. That's to get to the NFL. It was a story. He wasn't born in the United States. He was born, I want to say, in Honduras. His father's American. His mother was from Honduras. But I think at age 10, he was, what do you call that when both your parents died? He was
orphan.
He was an orphan, and he had family in Louisiana. So he went to Louisiana. He ended up going to LSU. But when he was in high school, he tried out for the football team in his sophomore year and didn't make the team. So he didn't go back the next year. He dropped out of high school and went to go work at a steel factory for 2 years. Then he came back to high school after hardening up at the steel factory and made the team. And then at that point, LSU gave him a scholarship, and he went to LSU. And the die was cast at that point, because now he's in, besides the NFL Hall of Fame, he's in Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. He's in the Eagles Hall of Fame. He's in LSU's Hall of Fame. He's in Louisiana State Sport Hall of Fame. Like, they all understood what this man was at the time. And from 44 to 51, 4 rushing titles, including 3 straight from 47 to 49. I was a bad man.
Yeah. So going back to the nicknames that I was mentioning, the last entry, and I was the only person that had this player, the ultimate weapon, Mr. Randall Cunningham. The reason why I picked him over Donovan, because if there was no Randall Cunningham, there would be no fucking Donovan McNabb. He helped pave the way for the black mobile quarterback. He was the first black quarterback to start in the Pro Bowl. Best dual threat QB of all time if you look at what he could actually do on the field. Mr. Carl Banks said that he was a guy that you wanted to play against, but you also hated to play against because you knew he was just an incredible football player. He said he played against Doug Williams, he played against Warren Moon, he played against Joe Montana, and he said, I don't think any of those guys brought to the game the fear that Randall Cunningham brought to opposing defenses, and he knows because he got embarrassed on Monday Night Football on that play. So that's gonna wrap it up for our Mount Rushmore. Those are our thoughts on what we think are the top players in that franchise. We're gonna get into our segment. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Ambassador Junior Blue, what it do, man?
Well, I'm gonna set this for you guys. Set this scene for you. On Sunday, the Colts were down 28-10 in the third quarter. They make a great comeback. 3 touchdown passes from Andrew Luck. None longer than 14 yards because we know he can't throw too much further than that. The Colts force overtime and with a TD with 45 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And in overtime, the Texans and the Colts, they trade field goals. Now we have these new rules. You're able to trade field goals until somebody wins. With a minute and 45 seconds left in the game, the Texans kick a field goal. Now it's tied up, and the Colts get the ball back. They drive the ball to their own 43-yard line. It's 4th and 4 with 27 seconds left. And now, most people what they would do is what? Punt the ball away, because if you don't get it, you give the ball to the Texans right there. Not Frank Reich, not the rookie coach. What he did was he burned his last time out before the play and set up a 4-yard pass that fell incomplete. Now, the 2 top receivers for the Colts weren't in the game because they were hurt. They have no running game to speak of, so you kind of knew what the play was about to be. Their quarterback obviously is not 100% yet, although he's out there playing and he did lead the comeback. So they fell on 4th down, and promptly Deshaun Watson hits Hopkins over the middle for 27 yards. They call a timeout with 3 seconds left in the game, kick a field goal, and guess what? You go from being 1-2-1 to 1-3 with a loss at home. Now, that maybe rookie mistake, right? Maybe a rookie mistake. But then you go into your locker room, you go into the press conference, and you say, you know what? 10 out of 10 times, I'm going to do this. There's a problem with that. You had no more timeouts, so even if you got the first down, you still had to go another 27 to 35 yards to get in field goal range. And we already said, quarterback arm ain't doing that in one throw. You were going to end up with a fucking tie anyway. So Frank Reich, you can get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, and your team is not good enough to have that bad of a coach.
Les out here taking out his Raider frustration.
Hey, we got our W, man. We got our W. All right?
Hey, but a little birdie told me he walked that back, though.
A little bit. He walked it back a little bit.
He walked that back. Not
Did
10
he?
out of 10. Yeah. So which makes it.
I actually respected him a little bit more because he said that.
Yeah, well.
I mean, this just the sentiment.
Maybe if he had
Like,
2 timeouts.
not the sentiment. People. Like, no, the sentiment is we going for the win, not for the tie. Like, I understand, not in that moment.
He was going for the loss and not the tie.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't going for the win.
Like, we don't want a tie on our record. It looks ugly.
Exactly.
I think it was too many damn ties.
Right.
That's all.
All right, so let's get in on part 2 of our Moments in Hand Egg History segment, part 2. And what we've been doing this year is trying to pose different conversations about the franchises aside from just the Mount Rushmore. And in this conversation, we kind of touched on a little bit on it in two of the players. So two of the most recognized players in as far as popularity, whether it's infamous or famous, are the two black quarterbacks that we mentioned in Mount Rushmore, which is Donovan McNabb and Randall Cunningham. Neither one of them quite got the accolades that many thought they should get or that they thought they should get. So the question that we wanted to open it up to and have a discussion on is, who was in their way more as a player or on or off the field, Donovan McNabb, or was it Randall Cunningham? Redo.
See, I'm sort of at a disadvantage here because I will admit I am not biggest Randall Cunningham fan. I'd never seen a lot of his games. I've seen highlights and all that good stuff, but I never caught a lot of Randall games. I've seen,
and that's why Skinny wanted to fight you.
Because that's his daddy. I've seen way more McNabb games.
We need a quiet laugh.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I know one thing. I think the difference is, the problem is McNabb was never a Philly guy. Like, you're certain people, certain players that are Philly guys.
Like
Tough.
Dawkins.
Yes. Like, you can't throw up at the Super Bowl and be a Philly and expect to be a Philly guy. And I think that was one of the main reasons why he was never accepted as much as even Randall was, who still doesn't think he got enough cred,
Which is part of his problem. But you think Donovan got in his way more because of the kind of persona that he exuded and
exactly. And what I said earlier was when you look at the quarterback who was drafted before him and after him, and you're playing while these quarterbacks are playing, and you think you're as good as these players, but which is insane when you look at, there's a stat where if you add total wins, winning percentage, including playoffs, Donovan McNabb is ranked 15th all time. And when you don't think of Donovan McNabb as top 15, do you?
No.
But
Skinny argued that. He's a Hall of Famer, and he'll always argue that, well, his numbers are better than Jim Kelly's, but completely different eras, and there's the Andy Reid factor.
But so there may be something to him saying, I don't think I got enough love than what he deserved.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me, they're almost two sides of the same coin, because you look at, of course, both of them, neither of them won a Super Bowl, but with Randall, it was like he never quite got to that big stage. And with Donovan, he was there early and often and just couldn't get the Eagles over the hump. And then the way I kind of look at the two of them is what they were up against. And I mentioned Donovan earlier. I don't think he had the best weapons compared to his contemporaries. But then you look at Randall, I think he was ahead of his time in the sense that he was in a system with Buddy Ryan, who was strictly focused on defense. He had two sons that tried to do the same thing. But he was never quite developed. So it was more so like, all right, we don't really have a game plan. Just put the ball in this super talented Negro's hands. And
it was street football.
It go make a play. Yeah. And it's like, if he would have had the development, and we can criticize Andy Reid as much as we want, as much as he may deserve it, he was able to structure an offense around what worked for Donovan McNabb. And I always think, what if Randall would have had the pieces, the structure, and then would have played in a much weaker NFC East than Randall did during his time? Because I think you look back, there was, I think the NFC East had a run of 5 Super Bowl champs in 7 years. And you look at those Eagles had to play against Parcells, Landry, Gibbs, and then the Cowboys before they became that dynasty. So, I mean, he had to go through the gauntlet, but I don't think he was necessarily equipped at that time to get there.
Les?
I think Donovan McNabb, like O said, he wasn't a Philly guy. And that brought him to where, he was booed on draft night and the fans never truly cheered for him. Like you said, throwing up in the Super Bowl, you can't do that. You're not Willie Beeman. You're not
or
that.
You better win.
Exactly. Throw on your invisible juice and win. But I also think Andy Reid kind of was in his way too, because when you have a quarterback as good as McNabb was, you don't surround him with Pinkston and Thrash for 5 years.
Jeez.
And their nickname was what? Stinkston and Trash.
Yeah. Me and Skinny called him Pink Slip.
So
They needed
I
to
mean,
get rid of his ass.
that's who you surrounded him with for the prime of his career. And talking about Andy Reid, we all know in the clock, in the game situations, not the best play caller and horrible with the clock. And when they drafted Mr. Freddie Mitchell,
FedEx Fred,
do you realize they could have drafted Reggie Wayne, Chad Johnson, or Steve Smith? Could you imagine any one of those guys on the squad? And in the next year, they drafted what? Reggie Brown in the second round?
Oh, God, him.
They could have had Vincent Jackson.
Oh, wow.
So imagine Steve Smith and Vincent Jackson with Donovan McNabb. I think they might have got a chip.
one. It's possible. For me, I picked, even though I put this Randall on the Mount Rushmore, I picked Randall because Randall got in his own damn way because he was a prima donna. He was pissing veterans off in the locker room. He would come in with marketing schemes, basically shitting on the wearing hats.
Willie Beeman.
Yeah, he really was Willie Beeman. But I think if you look at both of them, I think they're both a product of their coach. With Randall's coach, Buddy Ryan, he basically didn't pay attention to offense and said, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Buddy ball.
And then we have Andy Reid. Andy Reid would put Donovan in situations that have great stats, but he wouldn't get the wins because of how he called the games. And I think they just kind of bled into that.
Dev, do you think that his off the field endeavors, or the way he went about things, contributed to the fact that he got sacked 72 times in one season?
No, that team was terrible. That team was terrible.
I had to go back and read that at least 5 times. He got sacked 72 times in one season, then 40 or more times. Seven different seasons. Somebody didn't fuck with Randall Cunningham on that offense.
Well, he definitely rubbed people the wrong way. The 40 or more times is indicative of a mobile quarterback that happens. The 70, he got thrown in there. He wasn't expecting to play that season as it was. Like,
sounds like nobody was expecting it.
Nobody was. So let's actually move on. We're getting low on time here. Let's move on to our hot tea segment. Our hot topics, football tea.
Yeah, I was gonna let it rock.
We're gonna get there.
Time permitting, let's let it rock.
We're gonna get there. So over the weekend, or very recently, Mr. Eric Reid signed with the Panthers. Won't he do it?
Won't he do it?
Won't he do it? So the question is, does this affect the collusion case at all?
Not at all.
Nope.
Mainly, this owner is not a part of the collusion.
Exactly.
Because the team was recently sold. So that actually legally, he's not a part of it. So it can't affect it whatsoever because the previous owner would have been a part of it.
Well, that's what I mean. So this is new ownership. Does it prove like there was definitely some?
Oh, it helps.
How is a young 26 Pro Bowl safety out of a job for a year and a half?
Was he a Pro Bowl safety?
Yes.
You mean a Pro Bowl safety?
Exactly.
Which means the top.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think if there was any attempt by the NFL to use Eric Reid signing as to try to, disassociate himself with Kaepernick, Reid put that to bed quick. Because he was like, I'm with Cap on my shirt. That's my man's. And I'm still going to fight for these issues that I care about and speak out on these things, use my platform. But I got to go get that bag.
First off, his lawyer is the one who announced it, him coming back. So they knew for a fact it wasn't going to harm their case.
That is true. Kev, going back to you, you mentioned Kaepernick. Does this affect his situation at all? Will he be next?
Him getting a job?
Yes.
Nah, white people ain't that giving. Come on. we seen this movie before. Nah, it would be great, but then, it almost puts him in a point where I think I said this before in the show that right now he's bigger than football. So it's like for him to come back, does he really want to anymore? And then what
if he comes back,
if it does happen, what would that domino effect be in terms of his activism and in the NFL, who every week it's like another controversy?
All right, so far this season, there's been 6 overtime games, 2 ending in a tie, 1 almost did.
It should have been.
Yeah, so has this been good or bad for the game?
It's great for the game.
You think so?
Yeah, one, they're exciting. It's going down to the wire, and the games have been competitive. It's not like it's been 6-6 ties. You know what I mean? So it's high scoring games where teams are scoring against each other, and I think the more excitement, the better.
Les, how does the new overtime rule affect any of this? Is it working?
I think it's working. I never thought it was fair that one person would get the ball and the other team wouldn't get it if they kicked a field goal. I actually think we need like a college format. We need a winner. We need a winner. I mean, fantasy points will go way up, but I don't like seeing ties per se. But I also don't like giving up losses. When we should have had a tie.
I agree that winner would be nice, but football's a different sport. But I can understand maybe if you elongate the overtime or have a second overtime. But there's a point where you got to stop. This ain't baseball. You got to stop playing.
You got to stop playing because you're getting hurt, and that goes into player safety. But part of the new overtime rules, Kev, is that they have shortened it from the normal 15 minutes to, I believe, 12. How do you think that has come into play?
Well, first off, we all know Donovan McNabb.
Thank you. I was about to say that.
he don't believe in ties either. So
he's the only reason why I know there is a tie.
But to your point though, David, the shortened time does expose a lot. Pressure either busts pipes or builds diamonds, and we can see the teams who go out there with the intention to win the game. We see officials who
Frank Reich.
make terrible calls in overtime, and most importantly, like you said, coaches who. You're going to make your money or lose it. In an overtime game, you make a decision like, Frankie did last week.
Yeah, and I heard someone say on the radio, like, well, no one got on Belichick for not wanting to punt the ball to Peyton Manning, and he went for it on 4. But that's Belichick. He already had 3 Super Bowls. This is your 4th game, bro. Give that shit up.
Stick to the script.
He was trying to build the legend.
Man, already. Speaking of legends, there was one born last night. Prematurely, but it's coming around. Right now, the Rams.
Building.
It is building. The Rams and the Chiefs are the only unbeaten teams through 4 weeks of football. Which, really quick, round the room, and one reason why. Who's more impressive? Start with you, Les.
Rams, because they can outscore you, and that defense can lock you down.
Kev.
It's the Rams because the Chiefs are last in total defense. Last.
Which is why it's more impressive that it's the Chiefs, because the Rams have a super team. They should be 4-0. The Chiefs have a first-year starter at quarterback, and they're 4-0. That, to me, is more impressive.
I agree with Omar. I think it's KC for that simple fact, because that defense is atrocious. Something that we discussed all summer and almost every episode on this show, Mr. Le'Veon Bell said that he might come back week 7. Is this the right move for him, guys?
No. I will wait to the last minute, which is week 11, that he has to come.
I think he has to report week 10, right?
Yeah, in order to get the full year and become a free agent. Yeah, that's when I show up.
Kev.
I mean, did we not watch Earl Thomas? Like, if you were ever debating coming back, that's a reason not to. Because, I mean, again, you come back week 7. Hopefully their season is mathematically over by that point. But if it's not, you come back to play a few months worth of football for a team that, as constructed, that they're not going to seriously compete. Why would you put your future on the line? I mean, you've shown your value. You've shown your worth. So if anything, the price tag for you is going to go up even higher when we can see what a team is like with you and without you. Le'Veon should stay home or ride jet skis, whatever the fuck he been doing the last few months, and get his bag next season.
Omar.
Ditto.
Omar.
It doesn't make sense.
No, I was going to ask you a different question. Oh. Would he help the Steelers? Is that what they need?
Well, he would help them offensively, of course.
Can he play cornerback?
That's what I was about to allude to. Like,
But we've been saying that for the last 3 years.
Is he
right?
concrete Chuck?
Yeah.
Can he play both ways?
Hey, if he sat out 10, 11 weeks, maybe he could. Hey, maybe they could use him at
look, they could
linebacker.
very well get to AFC Championship. They're going to run into the same problem they did last year. They got tore up by an offense that knows how to exploit their weaknesses. Le'Veon isn't going to get them over the top. He may get them to contend, but that's it.
And we have a bevy of teams getting a whole bunch of suspended mofos back. We have Mark Ingram, Burfict, David Irvin, Luget, Turbin, Worley, Edelman, Jimmy Smith, all coming back from suspension. Which return is most impactful?
I have Edelman, mainly because Brandon Cooks has more yards in the whole wide receiving core of the New England Patriots. And now they're getting their star back.
I think I agree with Edelman. I think Burfict will be a good. Their defense is good already. It's very good. And
where did that shit come from?
And it's missing Burfict.
Yeah.
And I feel like they are close to keep having Marvin Lewis being
Extended?
Yeah. No.
Hey, I agree with Omar for the exact opposite reason. I think Burfict coming back, knowing his history, he hasn't played in this new NFL with these 15-yard penalties. He's going to single-handedly destroy the Bengals season when he comes back. I can't wait.
I think the sneakiest one is Ingram.
Yes. I agree with that.
Because it will bring more balance to that offense and, and allow Kamara to get some rest and make him better for the long haul.
Yeah.
And allow Breeze to open up the offense even more. So I think that could be sneaky good.
I agree with you.
Corey Liuget also for the Chargers, because without Bosa, they've struggled. And bringing Liuget back, that would help.
Yeah, they're still going to struggle until Bosa gets back.
I mean, it helps.
Yeah, they're having real problems.
Yeah.
So as you guys can tell, the loud one's not here, Mr. Kenny King Ken.
He slapped the off-duty cop.
But we're definitely there. It is.
Bell money's coming, dog. Go fund me.
But we still have a little tease for our segment All In with Ken. He'll be back on the show next week with his picks. But we are going to post something on social media before the weekend, giving you his picks. And this last week he went 3-0. So if you want to get that money, you better listen.
The bag is coming.
Yeah, and again, once again, it's MyBookie, MyBookie.com. And if you go there and you put in the promo code 32KR, put down a minimum deposit of $50, MyBookie will match that 100% up to $1,000. So before we get up on out of here, let's talk about some of the big games of the week. And Mike, you can go ahead and throw up that beautiful standings there.
Whatever.
For the league ambassador picks.
We all had a good week, though.
We did. We all had a great week. Right now, it's the Johnson boys.
Doesn't look like I had a good week, but I did.
Johnson boys are first and second place. Kenyon jumped over Les. Les had I think he had fall back a couple games the last couple weeks. But we have a
Raiders.
Yeah,
he was in my position last year.
So first game we want to talk about, which is a huge game early in the season in the AFC. We have the Jaguars traveling to the Chiefs. Kev, who you got in this game?
If the game was in Jacksonville, I'd be 100% on the Jags. I'm still going to roll with them. Don't hold me to it. I think Denver laid the blueprint for how to give them problems, and Jacksonville is a much better version of the Broncos.
Do we all agree with that?
Yes.
Yep.
I 100%. Defense travels, and I think I think the Chiefs get their first L. Another huge one because the loser's in a bad spot. We have Vikings at the Eagles.
I don't know what to think of either one of these squads.
Man,
Me neither. Oh my God.
But I'm at home, Philly at home.
I have Philly at home too, man. Reluctantly.
I have Philly too, but it's one of those things where I think like Kirk Cousins is good for about 3 games a season where he will play as the best quarterback in the league.
Like,
you know what I mean?
He didn't do bad last week.
Like either squad could get blasted on Sunday.
Right.
Kev,
I'm going with Philly though.
Yeah, the difference for me, I'm going with Philly, but the difference is I look back at last year, and Philly was just a matchup problem for Minnesota. Minnesota couldn't run the ball in that game last year. They can't run the ball this season. Till they show that they can, I think Philly going to beat them in a close one.
And then we got the all-Texas clash. We have the Cowboys traveling down south to Houston in two very disappointing teams. Me personally, this is worse than the second pick. I got the Texans just because they're home, and that's it. I mean, because Bill O'Brien is terrible, and so is the Ginger in Dallas.
I was thinking about the first season of 32 Kings Road when Red O was all on the Dakota bandwagon.
Yeah.
We ain't heard him mention his name.
And guess what? I still believe if he was somewhere else being coached up correctly and had some actual wide receivers, he would be a whole lot better than what he is.
This doesn't work?
Not at all.
Not on the 7-yard pass on 3rd and 10.
No, when you need 10.
So I got the Texans.
You got Texans.
Yeah.
Texans.
Kev?
Yeah, that and didn't set himself up for that failure of an offseason he had where he couldn't keep his mouth shut. But look, two black quarterbacks. I'm going with Houston because I picked the motherfuckers to win.
What do you mean? What do you mean? There's one black quarterback.
You all right?
He lost that right.
He lost the card.
Cool ass.
I picked Houston to win 10 games. The shit got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you looking like
he showed up
Kenyon
last week
with the Lions. Some transcendent shit needs to happen. And on that note, guys, we're going to go up and get out of here. This is our show for this week. Next week will be after the show Tuesday. We will be heading out to London for the first international matchup with the Raiders versus Seahawks. Get your shots ready, guys. My shit is water. But please follow us on social media. Again, the handle is @TheLeagueAM. The website is theleagueam.com. Subscribe to our podcast, even our off-season, non-football, all-inclusive sports podcast, Confirmation Bias. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe where you can see all of the episodes of both podcasts, which is under the banner League Ambassadors.
Bear down, baby.
Ravens on 3.
Raider
Happy birthday,
Nation.
Dave.
Oh, yeah, it's my birthday tomorrow, bitches.
Ain't that about a bitch?
Cheers, man.
7 names, no
And he
games
drinking
as
water.
I run it down the line. We got Kenny Ken put 100 on a tease with the streak for the cash. ESPN. Seth Curry with the shot. The prodigy. In reality, he's more like Seth, but he's all we got. Up next is Gentleman Jack, better known as Junior Blue. We told him not to do it anyway, but he did what he do. To his right is Devin, that dude, Eldad or Dirt Ass Dan. Just don't ask him a question, cause then he'll answer your question with another question, and then he'll add another question on top of that question. Damn. And I'm Red O, the Buck Wild Problem Child.
Flow butter, aka John Cutter.
It's the league ambassadors, and we playing to win. At the 2-yard line, and make no mistake, we running it in.